Welcome to the Water Action Platform. This is a short, focused episode bringing you one idea, one project, or one perspective that shapes the future of the water sector. No long panels, no unnecessary noise, just insights that matter. My name is Piers Clark, and my guest today is Martin Jackson, the new CIO, Chief Information Officer at Northumbrian Water in the UK. And the beauty of talking to you is that you are not a waterman. You're not an engineer. You're not a scientist. You're not from water. You are from infrastructure, but you've come in with a very different perspective to that is typical in the water sector. So I'm really keen to hear, what are the things that you worry about? What are the things that excite you?
Yeah, I mean, we are going through unprecedented times in the UK water industry, aren't we? We've had the Cunliffe Review, which published its recommendations. And then more recently, we've had the governmental white paper emerge with their viewpoint on how they're going to take forward those recommendations. And I think in times of significant change in any industry, in any walk of life, actually, that brings opportunity.
Give me some real practical examples of things that you've done that have delivered that impact.
The key example we're working on right now and actually implemented is our smart sewer in Tyneside. We've got a huge investment plan that we are implementing over this 5-year period. That is about 3 times the investment of the last 5-year period. The idea here is, how can we optimize the capacity in the existing sewer network using AI, digital twins and sensor capabilities before we even pour any new concrete to enhance the storage capacity in that network. So this is taking leading thinking from across in the US and bringing it right into our own context in Tyneside.
Can you share how much did it cost to do this sort of smart network, and how much do you think you've saved? And is it actually being used at the moment, or is it still a project in plan?
Yeah, so it's used in anger at the moment. So it's live. We have got a few control points. We're still collecting data on that, but the initial results are looking very, very promising. I think the other side of the coin is about offsetting investment needed in infrastructure projects as well. And what we are seeing is we are taking that thinking and we're now applying it to other parts of our operations in other regions. And we're seeing that can be in terms of tens of millions of pounds of benefit in terms of offsetting capital investment needs by optimizing what we've got there in place.
Yeah, you can eke out a sort of 5, 10, 15% operational saving, which is hard to capture in budgets because there's so much volatility in general operating budgets. The really big saving with these sorts of things is if you can eliminate or curtail or reduce some big capital scheme, that's where the real saving gets captured. All right, so you're a CIO, but you're not an engineer and you're relatively new to the water sector. So when you're looking at the things that the water sector's doing, where do you see better information in the day-to-day operations of a water utility?
There's more of a requirement than ever for collaboration across the industry. So I think when we are shaping the future of the industry, coming together to create that shared vision is important. But I think what underpins that is how we can collaborate through data and technology and innovation as well. And I think one of the key enablers for that is the work that we've been doing on open data through Stream. Stream is the UK water industry open data initiative. We're all participants in that organisation individually.
When you say we all, you mean all of the water utilities in the UK?
Yes, the water utilities publish their data into Stream, and then that can be used to innovate, to build new AI models, to drive new value for our customers. We've got data sets available through Stream that people can access. Some of that is about transparency, so it underpins the National Storm Overflow Hub. So if you go online, you can look at the status of all of the storm overflows across the UK from each wastewater organisation. A lot of application around is where small SMEs or innovators are using that information then to develop new products and services as well. That can help shape the future of new innovation and new products and services for our customers.
Now, we're talking to the man who was in the post before Martin took over. Nigel, wonderful to have you with us. Thank you for taking the time. The topic we're going to talk about today is one that we've never touched on before, which is the challenges at an exec level in particular when you hand over the reins, because you've been sitting in the group that helps steer the whole business. How do you preserve the legacy of the things you're proud of, and how do you move on and make sure that things get built upon rather than torn down and gone in a different direction?
We planned for this for quite some time. So I first sat down with Heidi, the CEO, 2 years before I was due to leave and said, look, I'm going to make my exit here at some point. And we agreed the 2-year time frame then. Obviously didn't tell anybody else because that would undermine your authority if you did that. And I asked her, do you want to make a significant change here in direction, or are you looking for continuity, right? And so she said, no, I'm looking for continuity. And I said, okay, then that's fine. And as anyone would in a position, a leadership role, you have a duty, I believe, to do decent succession planning. So I'd already been working with my team to identify a couple of candidates that might be able to step up and do the role when I was ready to walk away.
Nice. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? If you tease out the things that make a successful handover, and it does look like the handover has been incredibly smooth, from what I can see at least. It appears to be having a clear line of sight. You didn't say to Heidi, I'm leaving in 3 months' time. You gave her 24 months to plan. And identifying and grooming potential candidates internally and working out what the difference is between what they were doing to what they will be doing, and trying to bridge those gaps and test that they've got the skill set. Is that a fair summary?
That's a very fair summary, yeah. And look, I'm in the background, right? So if he needs to call me, he absolutely can. And I think so far he's called me, like we're 6 months in, he's called me twice.
All right. You spent 10 years in the role, and there are a few things that are really quite Nigel Watson specific. There's obviously the Innovation Festival, and there's NUAR, the National Underground Assets Register. Can you just summarize what the NUAR program is?
Simply put, it's a common underground map of England and Wales. In the past, we've always had our own records of our own underground assets, and then there might be a PDF of the electric network. You'll have a piece of paper with the gas on and something else with the telecoms. NUAR brings all of those layers together. It had quite a journey, and it's almost impossible to separate that journey from the festival, really, Piers. The first festival, we only had 6 sprints. 3 of those sprints said, we need a common underground map. I sat with Heidi and she was like, we should jump on that, right? We should really try and make that happen. So when we were planning the 2018 festival, I was going, where did we get to with that underground asset register? And they were like, well, it's stalled. Nobody wants to share their data. You could easily understand that that's a problem. So we came up with this concept we now call a year's worth of work in a week. The lawyers, just to take that as an example, we gave them a blank sheet of paper and said, write a data sharing agreement this week. You know, you can appreciate in real life, that's probably 18 months of back and forth and markup. Nope, in 4 days, they had an agreement written. Now, was it perfect? Absolutely not. But was it good enough? Yeah, it was good enough to take another step. So at the end of that week, we had 4 underground areas of Newcastle mapped and visible on an app, you know, with all of those different layers in it. Obviously not usable, but proved it could be done. The next step was Sunderland City Council. We all agreed 4 utilities would put in £25,000 each. And for £100,000, we built an underground map of Sunderland. And that was sort of the next step that proved that this could be achieved. And then we got lucky. We were in touch with the Geospatial Commission, which was a government department, and they decided to fund £4 million, the whole of the North East and London. And then the government was happy, and I don't know exactly what they invested, but I think it was somewhere between 30 and 40 million pounds to build out the final production, which went live last year. So from flash to bang, you're looking 7-8 years. It's delivered now, and we've been embedding it into our business and making sure that when we're digging up the road and things like that, we're using this common underground map. It has, by the government's own numbers, a benefit to UK PLC of about £400 million a year.
That's incredible. So you've spent roughly 4 million, 100-fold increase, and that's per annum, that saving, isn't it?
Yeah, that's per annum. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's good return on investment for the government, and we were delighted to be able to play a role throughout to make it happen.
It wouldn't have happened if A, you hadn't created the Innovation Festival, and B, if you hadn't actually had the resolve to keep driving the Innovation Festival, actually making sure that there's momentum behind the ideas that came up at the Innovation Festival. I hope you enjoyed listening. See you next time.